Welcome to the High Ticket Success Podcast, where premium coaches, consultants, and advisors come for bold strategies, big breakthroughs, and real results. I'm your host, Dave Dubow. Hey, folks, welcome back. Today I've got an old friend joining me, Yakov Smart. Yakov and I have known each other, 5 or 6 years at least, I'm thinking, Yakov, and we're both working in the real estate world, helping real estate investors to raise private capital. And Yakov's claim to fame and main focus back in those days was on helping people to connect with investors using LinkedIn. I had a few different methodologies, and he interviewed me, I interviewed him. We did cross promotions. It was a nice symbiotic kind of thing. And then Yakov went ahead and sold that business, and now he's doing something completely different, also in the coaching and consulting space. So, Yakov, welcome to the show. Great to have you here, my friend.
Thank you for having me. It was great to see you.
So, let's start with the basics. Now that you're doing your new thing, before we jump into what that new thing actually is and how it works, tell me, who is the primary avatar or market that you're serving these days?
Well, it's funny because these are highly paid coaches, highly paid consultants, people who have audiences, who have growing businesses. And what I found, it's so funny because it's come full circle for me, Dave, and I'm sure it has for you as well, because as a business owner in the info space, we always have a lot of ideas for things we could do, or we know we should be optimizing different things. There's only so much time in the day and only have so much bandwidth. And
Yeah.
so what I realized is every expert, if someone has a true expert business where they're monetizing their expertise, there's untapped opportunities. And we found a way to streamline those opportunities, take things off experts' plates, and create new streams of income. So it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I'm excited to get into it with you here.
Okay, so you said a whole bunch of big words that confuse me. It sounded exciting, but I don't get it. So, yeah, okay, high ticket coaches and consultants, that's who you're working with, experts who have expertise, who have untapped potential in their existing database or existing lists that they haven't taken full advantage of. That does sound very interesting. So, tell me a little bit about what the methodology is, if you don't mind, Jakob.
So typically it's going to be one of three types of campaigns, right? So you mentioned having a list, and I know we have probably listeners who have different size of audience. Someone might be saying to themselves, well, I don't have 100,000 people on my email list. How big
Neither
can my
neither do
list
I.
need? Yep, exactly, exactly. And so someone could have a list as small as a few hundred people, and the strategies that I'm going to give you are things that you could tap into, right? So the first strategy, it's called a poll pop, right? So if someone has a Facebook community, online community, could be a LinkedIn group, although those aren't as hot as they once were, right? Even with an email list, it starts with running a poll, right? And so if you know what your offer is, which is a whole different tangent, having a great offer makes all this stuff work so much
Yeah.
better. But it's running a poll and, using leading language that gets people to raise their hand. So it's something like, hey, I'm putting this together. I'm working on this thing. You vote A, B, or C. A, oh, that sounds great. I'm in. Sold. Sometimes we even give the price depending on how warm the audience is. And people will say, yeah, I'm in for 5K. I'm in for 10K. It's the greatest thing. And then it's pretty simple from there, right? Sometimes people will say, I need more details, right? And that's
Yeah.
where the conversation happens, which we'll talk about in a second. And some people will say, no, not for me, which is great. But what this does, it allows people to buy. And I think it's a really important thing. I've certainly overlooked this over the years in my coaching consulting businesses. We think everyone knows our offer. We think everyone's
Oh,
either in or out. They're so busy. They're so inundated. They may not have been a fit a month ago. Now they're hot to trot, right? But they haven't been presented the offer. So I'm in favor of presenting people offers when it makes sense for them, right? So that's called a poll pop campaign. That's one.
poll pop campaign.
Yep, poll pop campaign. So you run a
Poll, and then pop, POP. Is that what you said?
POP. The reason it's called a poll pop is you run a poll, it creates a cash pop.
I
So
like
it
it.
creates a
Okay,
little
there we go. Yeah,
cash
yeah, yeah.
injection if it's done right.
Well, the reason I'm smiling and laughing at this is because I am that guy. I've got the shiny object syndrome, probably worse than anybody. So I see something, get get kind of enchanted with it for a little while, promptly forget about it when something else comes around and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't mean that I'm not still interested in that. It just means that my ADD has taken over and I've gotten distracted by something else. The other reason I'm kind of smiling is because I've got a completely how can I put this nicely? Underserved Facebook group of like 4,000 people
Mhm.
that I barely communicate with, and that group is this a way to resuscitate a group, or if it's been a long time since you've kind of been interactive with that group, is a poll pop going to work?
I would say for a Facebook group, those things have changed over the past couple of years. Reach isn't what it used to be, but we see them working all the time. So I would, warm them up a little bit. A few
Mhm.
content posts, some teaser copy, see if people will engage, comment, like, and then drop the poll in there, right?
Now, Kit, is you know way more than I do about this stuff, Yakov. Is there a way to like even pay to promote that poll to the people that are in your group? Like Facebook loves money, so can we advertise our poll to our own group members?
There should be, Dave. Facebook hasn't, for whatever reason, they haven't thought of it, right? So the closest thing you can do is use the add everyone tag. Right? But the issue with Facebook groups, you have 4,000 people, you might post something and 40 or 50 or 60 might see it, right?
Maybe,
So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
sometimes that number's in the hundreds, right? And so it can vary. And the more comments are posted, and this is one of the keys to the polls on Facebook, you want people commenting, not voting in the poll. Why is that? Because that notifies more people in the group, hey, there's something cool in this group happening, right? And so if you get 20, 30, 40 comments, now all of a sudden you're reaching, in your case, hundreds, if not maybe a
So
thousand
it's
more
yeah, so it's
people.
not necessarily doing a poll per se.
Yeah.
It is doing a poll, but the way they vote is by commenting.
By comment, yeah.
Got
And
it.
then
Okay.
the other tricky thing about Facebook, and this is a very tactical thing, is if you're not friends with someone on Facebook, and let's say they voted, yeah, I want more details, and you send them a message, the problem is you probably know this, but the problem is there's a separate inbox. They're probably never going to see your message. It doesn't go to their main inbox,
Mhm.
right? And that inbox gets cluttered. And so another thing you can do is have them vote with their email address as well. And now you're sending people emails or even reach out
Smart.
via email. So there's a few different ways to do it. But what's cool about a poll is people feel heard, seen. It's more exciting than just saying, hey, here's this offer. Do you want in? It adds
Yeah.
a bit of fun to it.
All right. So we got poll pops.
Yep.
Love that term. Now I got my rusty old brain around that. So good. Good job explaining it. You said there's a couple more. What other things do you have that tricks up your sleeve there, my friend?
Well, the other one that's really great, if anyone's running webinars, challenges, even in-person events, and you and I have both run a lot of these. So even if you're the best closer in the world, you do everything right, you have a great show rate, you're going to have only a small percentage of people buy, right?
Mhm.
And so what happens to those unconverted leads, as we call them? Typically, there's a little email campaign that goes out. Maybe you try texting them, and typically some coaches are really good. They'll do it for 2 weeks. Some will do it for a month. But beyond that, there's just a drip campaign and they
Yeah.
kind of get forgotten. So what we
Guilty.
no,
I
I've
get
done it too because
it.
we're like, oh, they
Yeah.
didn't buy, they're obviously not interested. Well, what we figured out how to do is we have a sales process that actually works without getting on the phone with people. So it's a phoneless sales process. And we'll personally reach out to everyone using a number of touch points and get them to engage in a conversation and figure out, did they even attend the webinar? What are they even interested in? Did they even see the offer? Was it a money thing? What was the reason they didn't buy? And if we can get the objection and they're truly interested, there's some sales sitting there typically.
Nice.
So
Nice.
the
Nice.
bigger the event, the bigger the webinar, the more specific. It's a way to go. And even if you had a great webinar, great event, great challenge, you knocked it out of the park, it's a way to collect some additional revenue and, get some people to buy who otherwise they would have never attended, never even seen the offer.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. So you got some different kind of secret sauces that you do for doing those touch points. So I'm assuming email, and then you're trying to connect it with them different ways as well through text message if you got the
Hmm.
phone number and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, and
Cool.
all
Cool.
the whole key is getting someone to feel like it's personalized. That's really
Hmm.
important. We're not talking like the long-winded message. and getting someone to actually respond and engage in a conversation. And then it's a sales conversation from there without the pressure of go book a strategy session, right? Because
Yeah.
that can feel like a lot of pressure.
Yeah. So it's more of a sales conversation via text or via email or versus talking with people directly.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's the second one.
Mhm.
What's the third one, my friend?
Third one is the bigger overarching one. I call it a more clients faster campaign, right? So think about a traditional email campaign doing a launch. So typically 7 to 10 day window, warming people up, pre-selling them, getting them really excited, multiple emails. I mean, this takes several pieces to execute. And then from there, a 1 to 2 week window, having different emails. So the way this works is you're not going to talk about the action. You're not going to talk about all the details of the offer in an email, but it's just enough to get someone to raise their hand. It's testing different angles and they say, yeah, I want more details. And then it's that sales conversation, right? Via text message or via email. And then once someone is qualified and interested, presenting the offer in that same way. So instead of telling someone the offer, presenting it via words.
Okay, my friend. Was this is very cool. It's also radically different, I believe, than what you used to be doing, or maybe it's not. I'm not too sure because you used to be focused exclusively on LinkedIn leads and all this kind of stuff. This is a fairly fast transition for you. So how did you clue into all of this, Yakov?
Yeah, well, to make a very long story short, in the old business, I realized that a lot of the sales calls I was getting on were kind of a waste of time. It wasn't because they were bad people. It wasn't because I didn't know how to sell. It was because they simply weren't in the buying pocket.
Hmm.
And I said, I could have all the fanciest closes. We had a video that people watched, but for whatever reason, the close rate was still the close rate. And I got really frustrated. And then I realized, okay, we need to really hone in on what that buying pocket looks like. And I tested selling. I had a 15K offer at the time. I tested selling that without a phone call. And a couple people bought it. And I said, whoa, that's pretty awesome. Didn't have to
Yeah.
get on the phone, didn't have to, fill my calendar, and they bought the offer. The reason they bought was because they already had a level of affinity and trust, and because the offer was a great offer for them, right? So they were in that buying pocket, and everyone else didn't need to get the offer. They either needed more nurturing, right? Or it just wasn't the right time, and that's okay. So I first realized that before I sold that business about a year prior to that, tested
Yeah.
some different things, did a hybrid between getting on the phone and doing it phoneless, and then sold that in spring of this year, did a couple things in like the personal development space, dabbled in that, which by the way, anyone in that space, mad respect, because that was the hardest
Yeah,
offer.
that was the last time we talked. That's what you're getting into is some woo-woo stuff. I was going,
No,
whoa, that's a radical change. So
I
I got
mean,
to say, I'm kind of happy that you're back into the dollars
yeah.
and cents side of things.
It's not as fun too, it's not as tangible. This stuff, like it's simple to explain. That stuff, it's way more abstract, right? And
Yeah.
so this summer, started working with people, and I said to myself, and like, got up to date on the latest strategies, what's working online for other people. And I said to myself, well, what if we have a different model where it's more of a true partnership? I'm not looking to charge, some crazy retainer or anything like that.
Hmm.
Can we get someone results and only get paid after they get the results, right? So it's really cool because when people work with us, they don't pay until after the sales come in. So if no sales come in, we don't get paid. So everyone's got the same objective, everyone's got the same goals, everyone's got the same motivation. So therefore, it's more like a true partnership. On the flip side of that, though, this isn't a volume play for you. Like, let me
Yeah.
let me try to get everyone. No, they have to be the right fit. Otherwise, I'm wasting time and money.
Yeah. So this really works well, it sounds to me, for people like myself, right? Who've got a list of prospects who didn't bite the first time around and they've kind of been well, not shelved necessarily, but almost, they're plugged, they're in the database and they're getting whatever you're sending from time to time. And a chunk of them have opted out and a chunk of them have zoned out. And a lot of your stuff ends up in the spam folder anyhow, kind of thing. So it's a way to go back in after these people, approach them from several different angles, try to get them re-engaged, see where they're at, test the temperature, and then have the sales conversation in a bit more of an organic way via messaging versus, hey, jump on a discovery call.
Yeah, exactly. And if it works for a certain list and a certain offer, then there's usually room to evergreen it as well. So if it works for one
Yeah,
campaign, then you can make the whole front end be that, if that makes sense.
really smart, Yakov. You're living up to your last name there, my friend.
I do my best, man.
Cool, cool, cool. So this, I know this is a newer kind of a thing for you. Have you been rolling this out with some other clients so far? And if so, can you share any kind of result type stuff that's been happening so far?
Yeah, I'll share a great story. So
Yeah.
this guy is in a very interesting niche that people probably haven't heard of. So he's in a, I won't say which trade, but there's the general contractor, there's certain trades. So he has a coaching offer for a certain trade, right? And these are blue collar people. When we met,
So
he
let's say roofers, for
yeah, so
example, that might not
roofers
probably
would,
not
would
read.
be would be in the ballpark, right?
Yeah.
So he had a Facebook group for roofers. He had sold coaching to a few, like high ticket coaching, and then we talked about okay, he didn't have an email list. So the very first thing we did is we took all the emails he had, put them in a database, nurtured them, did the email enablers, scraping process, and then we ran a campaign to sell a group program at 5K a pop. And so we sold, what was it? We sold 10 units and then someone also upgraded. So that was 67K in sales, I think in 3 weeks on a brand new offer. And
Nice.
without getting on the phone with people, without
That's
inviting them
exciting.
to a strategy session, right? So that's really, it's,
So did you work with him on the offer and the whole bit? Sounds like you probably
yeah.
did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he had an idea. We had to take what was, because this is also another good use case. If someone's got a great one-on-one offer, but they want to sell group and they haven't quite cracked that, his one-on-one was 10 to 15K. So we took, okay, why are people actually buying the offer and made that a 5K offer? And then another cool thing you can do if someone's buying a group offer, a lot of people may already know this, you can upgrade them. What's the next
Hmm.
thing? What's one-on-one? And this can all be done without them having to get on a phone call or book a strategy call and, talk to a closer. It does, is it necessary? I believe in 2025, the average person buying is a little bit more averse to that kind of stuff because they've been on the strategy call with a hardcore salesperson.
Hmm.
Maybe they've bought coaching and it hasn't quite lived up to the hype, right? So I think it's important to adapt and make it more of a user friendly, like a more of a frictionless process and really let the person feel like they're buying.
Well, not only that, Yakov, but what I think you're solving with this is the fact that most of us, well, me, I'll talk about myself, we suck at follow up. Like most people suck at follow up. So, like you say, they take one crack at people, and if they don't buy right then and then, they're kind of relegated to the hinterlands of their email list. And if they come around eventually, great, but most of the time you kind of forget about them. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, and the other thing that I've noticed with coaches and consultants, and I think your program does a great job of this as well, a lot of them don't want to be doing much on the marketing and sales side. They want to be
Mm.
coaching, teaching, mentoring, helping other people, but they don't want to be looking at marketing KPIs, optimizing a campaign, writing copy, selling stuff. You
Figuring
know,
out the algorithms.
yeah.
Yeah,
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 it can feel like such a grind, right? So it's that, and then yes, follow up. There's so many layers and it's about being meticulous and a lot of skills come into this process as well.
very cool, Yakov. Well, I'm sure there's going to be some folks interested in finding out more about how you do all of this. You've got a super duper highly technical way to get people to connect with you. What is that?
Yeah, it's the fanciest funnel people will ever hear about. So they could send me an email. Okay. I'll give everyone my email address. That's a secret. It's my first name, Yakov, at magnetictalentagency.com. That's Yakov at magnetictalentagency.com. You can put the word Dave in the subject line. Say, hey, heard you on Dave DeBoe's podcast. Interested in more info. And we can go from there.
Fantastic. Yakov, thanks very much for letting me know what you're up to, letting all of us know what you're up to. I think that's fantastic. I think it's really, really smart because you're absolutely right. Most high ticket coaches and consultants and advisors, they're very good and they love doing their thing. They just don't necessarily love marketing or selling that thing.
Yep.
And even the ones that do enjoy the marketing and selling of it, most of them, because I love marketing, but most marketers pretty much really suck at the follow up. Most salespeople really suck at the follow up. So either way, it kind of solves that problem. And I think it's very, very smart the way that you're doing this, where it's a pay for performance partnership versus a retainer type thing. So hats off to you for coming up with a great offer.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for listening to the High Ticket Success Podcast. Want to be featured? Share your story and inspire other premium coaches, consultants, and advisors? Apply now at highticketsuccesspodcast.com/guest.